Hey, everybody. Welcome to our first guest speaker of the spring semester for MKT 355 Sports Selling and Sales. I'm excited to have our guest, who is a sports industry veteran, someone that's worked in a lot of different sports and leagues, and also has taken on a lot of different sales roles. And so I'm really excited to welcome Roger Perryman, who is currently the director of partnership development in Miami at the Marlins. So welcome, Roger.
Hey, thanks, JP. It's good to speak with you all day, St. Joseph's University. It's kind of honestly a good full circle. So I remember when I first had my interest into sports sales and making that transition. And, most people start as possibly a chance of inside sales. My first interview was actually with the Philadelphia Sixers. So this kind of a good full circle moment of talking to y'all.
That's great. Were you interviewing for like a sales position or corporate services? What were you doing?
Well, at that time, I went to Hampton University. So when I was transitioning, out of college, kind of did some things with athletics, doing events, doing promotions. But I had a friend that I saw he went to Villanova, got his master's, and then he was doing inside sales there. I kind of go, do teamwork online, and I applied for the job and talked to, actually, y'all probably seen this guy named Eric Cole. He's with the Indianapolis Colts doing core partnerships with them. But I did the interview and, went through the motions, but I remember I took the call. I think I was in the gym, it was like, oh, okay. He kind of hit me. I was prepared for it, but at the same time, it was kind of like, oh, I thought it'd be more, for me, it's like, I always see things as a conversation, right? If it's a good fit and you've done the proper preparation, it's like, hey, let's talk about it. But I remember I was on a networking call with Eric not too long ago. And, he's in partnerships with the Colts. So we kind of talk and collaborate on things. I was like, hey, Eric, you remember interviewing me? He was like, no, I don't. Wait, you should have told me you knew Rob. So even then in that moment, I was trying to get that opportunity for myself. But he was like, even at that moment, if you would told me you went to school with Rob Nicholson, I would have told you like, oh, I knew y'all come from the same cloth, right? Come from the same place, probably have similar attributes. So I would just give you a chance at that point. Because as you realize in this industry, not to say inside sales kind of like a turn and burn situation, but it's a crapshoot, right? You hire 12 people. Hey, if you get at least two, that's still a steal, right? Because ideally think about, okay, one might shine, we got a full-time employee. So if they can see a little bit more out of you in those opportunities where it's like, okay, we have to find a way to keep them within our organization, it goes a long way. But even then, right, even him being part of my journey, getting those no's, it's kind of good now. It comes full circle of, hey, we're now, equals in a sense, right? It's kind of funny thinking like, oh, it's a rat race, or I got to go here, I got to go there. It's like, no, like if it's meant for you to work with somebody, you'll cross paths again. So that's honestly, I guess, my first interview in sports. And now like those conversations and those relationships still come now almost 11 years later, still come to light.
Yeah, I've always said that the sports industry is a small fraternity or sorority, and eventually everybody's going to be interconnected somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's through working at certain teams or properties, or it's just people that and have relationships with. And that's sort of how we connected. We connected really through just networking, and some of our students here on campus had reached out to you in doing some of the assignments. And so I'm excited to have you here on having you here in class, because I don't think we've ever really met formally, and I'm really curious to just hear about your background and sort of your path into sports, and I also want to hear more about your role at the Marlins.
Sure, JP. I mean, I guess my interest in sports and sports marketing is kind of really just being product of sports. Even growing up, my mom grew up in New York, so of course she grew up a Yankees fan. I grew up in Atlanta, kind of era of those '90 Braves. So I saw even the Olympics. I was a child when the Olympics were going on, but I remember being there at 6 years old and seeing the business, right? Because for me, if y'all do research more on sports marketing, it bases really off the Olympics and baseball, right? Like different products, what athletes wearing, what shoes, what brands are showing up from different countries, right? Kind of like say the world of sports and world business. It all is kind of magnified with the Olympics. So when I went to school, not even school, like even high school, like when I was growing up, that's when, LeBron was starting to take off a little bit, Sebastian Telfair. I went to school with Lou Williams, you know what I mean? Like, so I saw like even high school sports playing ball in Atlanta. It's like, oh, these companies want us to wear their shoes. They want us to wear their gear. They want us to wear their apparel. Even Kobe, I remember Kobe, my junior year, he was, he's a Nike athlete. We was a Nike school. They was playing the Hawks. And I remember one time it was like, hey, a guest speaker is here to see y'all today. And we walk in there, we had an opportunity to talk to Kobe. And I think really it was more the partnership with Nike and say, hey, what's a Nike school in Atlanta that's doing good? And I could kind of help give a nice pep. And then he came and saw us play that next night. So it was kind of one of the things where even in high school, I saw the business of sports. So when I got into it in college or even post-college, I kind of went down to, I remember Pursuit of Happiness, where that's what kind of made that spark happen, right? He got invited to the suite from the big prospect he wanted to get in front of, and he had that opportunity to get his undivided attention, right? Hey, bring your son, come meet with the game. So at least for me, when I saw my Tristan going to sales, it was like, okay, what connects people? What kind of breaks down those layers? But ultimately, how can I get this big decision maker undivided attention? Where he at least has to hear me, even if we're sharing some popcorn, if we're sharing a drink, it's like, okay. And just like in that movie, he's like, hey, you already got, my attention. Let's talk business another time. Let's build that personal connection. And then eventually the business will come. So I think for me, even through school, that was kind of my thing of kind of like supply and demand in high school, chips or quarter waters or mixtapes at that point. And then you get into athletics and you get into schools, right? Like, what's the events? Oh, who's the party promoter? Who's getting paid to build a campaign, build a flyer, tell your message, differentiate yourself where, hey, we stand alone. It's a product I guarantee. And I think in sports, ultimately, right, it's about the experience, it's about the interaction, but also the access, right? And I think that's the beauty of sports. It brings so many elements of business together where it's kind of like a no-brainer, right? And ultimately, when you get somebody on that phone or you're talking to a client, there's already interest there. So I think for me, it's like there's a lot of things you could sell, but I think that's the key about sports. It's really not about selling. It's about first making that initial connection, adding value, and then think about the solution you have to their problems. And then from there, it kind of gets seamless like that over time.
Yeah. So, so I looked up a little bit of your background, Roger. It looks like you started in ticket sales with the Nationals. Is that your first entry into sports?
Correct. That's an interesting story because I remember, of course, you're looking for that first time opportunity. I remember I actually had a friend of mine that was a Charlotte Hornets DJ and doing things in Charlotte. And he's like, hey, Rod, just come here and then you'll find your way in. But for me, it was a humbling experience. Even me being in Charlotte, trying to do as many interviews, get as many times getting the door, it just wasn't connecting. So I kind of had to humble myself, move back to DC, where I think I was working at Macy's at the time. And I remember my mom told me, hey, the Nationals are doing a job fair. You should go. I'm like, okay. But at that point, it was just part-time job. It was like be a box office ticket seller, be an usher, or be a cook. And I was like, well, of course I come there, suit, shirt, and tie. And I remember in that interview process, it was like, you don't look like you should be, doing these game day stabs. Like you're probably could do inside sales. At that point, I was like, hey, I just want to find my way in the door one way or another. So even then I talked to Ben Cobley. He's out there with the Sixers now, like the SVP of partnerships now, but he interviewed me when he was the director of ticket sales at that point. And he was like, hey, we don't have an opportunity right now, but hey, stay around and we'll find the opportunity where it presents itself. So even then I was like, okay, I can't really cook. So there's no point in me trying to be a chef or a cook at any point. I was like, ushers are cool, but I would do more than greet people. But then with tickets, me doing events, doing promotions, I'm like, hey, it's ticket sales, right? I get to learn a product. I get to learn the inventory. I get to learn who a national fan is. So when I started the box office in March, my goal was, hey, I was at the window. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to get $5,000 at this window today, right? Like I made different goals for myself of, hey, I wasn't trying to say, hey, I'm just taking, selling tickets. I'm like, no, I'm a seller, right? So even then I heard people's like, oh man, I'm glad you got me these home plate seats. Me and my son had, like, literally people used to come to me after the game. Like, they'll go in the game, I'll walk them through the process, and they'll find them, like, even they leave the blowout game, like bottom of the eighth or ninth inning, I'm still kind of closing up shop. They was like, hey, thank you. Like, this was a great experience. And then from there, by All-Star break, I was ready for the opportunity with inside sales. So for me, it was like, I guess my story is, it's not one way to get your foot in the door, but just know people are talking about you no matter where you are in the building. And then from that point, my box office manager, a lot of people vouched for me, like, no, Roger's a real deal. And then when I did my gauntlet of, 3 or 4 rounds of interviews, going to a room with 30 people, it was weird. It was like, once I got there, it's like, oh no, you good. Like, you got your chance. You go get your shot to prove what can you do even more, right? So I think it's just find a way of saying, hey, it's not cookie cutter. It's not one path to go there. But hey, when you see a door, you see that crack, make the most of that opportunity, because that speaks volumes when more and more comes on your plate. They're like, hey, it's a character thing, but also it's proven. You have what it takes at that point.
So it sounds like your first job in sports was more like a game day worker in like walk-up sales.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, which is interesting to me, because it sounds like probably where you differentiated yourself was trying to upsell customers and also trying to put them in a product that was better for what they were trying to do.
Correct.
And ultimately increased revenues, where most people in those roles probably are just order takers, where you probably took a different perspective of it.
Take pride. I mean, anything you do, take pride in and say, hey, I want to be the best, or find the ways to learn. Like you said, understand ultimately what's the needs and want of that client or that fan coming up to the window. Because everybody, like, you got these game day specials, those $5 tickets. Like, of course, that'll get you in the building, but what's going to make you come back over and over again, right? These specials might give you opportunity to get your foot in the door, but what's going to keep you in the door? And that's why I kind of took pride in, honestly, even to this day, because I tell people, hey, I started off at the first initial spot of making revenue for an organization, now doing the highest level of revenue for an organization. But every step in between is kind of like a layer of cake. You need every layer to ultimately get the full holistic approach. When you get that VP or that president or being an owner of a team, you could tell everybody you're working with, like, hey, understand that fan experience from the ground level, right? And as we walk it up. So to your point, JP, that's the only way you have to go back, because this game is so tedious and hard. Like, you got epics and flows. Like, hey, I did MLB, NFL, NBA. It's really not about the team you're working for. It's not about the star player. It's about really being a student of the game. I know a lot of people say that, like, it's a process. It's a way I can perfect this craft every day. And I think that's the beauty of sales and business in general. Even the best is like, okay, it's ways I get better at this. And I think that's why I enjoy where, hey, I could be selling printers or a lot of different things, but sports and business is one of the things that's here forever. So if I could do this all at the same time, it's a dream every day when you look at it that way.
Yeah. So this course is designed to give the students some experience in ticket sales, and later in the semester we move into corporate sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested in here, because now you've sort of have both roles, which, that's not easy for people to transition from ticket sales to corporate sponsorship. Even though you're selling, right? The sales process is different, the prospects are different, the products are different. So tell the students a little bit about how you sort of move from ticket sales into now corporate.
I mean, for me, being a marketing major, I kind of always saw sales, marketing, hey, is a method to the madness, right? The key is trying to see the needs and the wants of the prospects, their goals, their objectives, but also what's their message in the market? What's their brand mission? And ultimately, I was talking to a prospect about their ice cream product, right? Something simple as, hey, every game is better with dreamy ice cream, right? So for instance, kind of where things people want to show up and they have their aspirations, but also it's the needle mirrors, like the ROI they want. Where's their goals? What's their sales? How can we help grow, right? Their affinity in the market, kind of be their echo chamber, but ultimately just get the awareness out there in the market. Because like I said, it's kind of still going down to, hey, When somebody comes into the ballpark, you have their undivided attention, or they're amongst you for at least 2.5, 3 hours, right? So the goal is to kind of get that top of mind, right? Either it's an in-game feature, we undivided have their attention at least for 15 to 30 seconds, depending on the feature, right? Or it's the LED rotations, or it's kind of getting samplings of your product, or educating them of who you are. And then they'll come apart and be part of that emotional connection. Kind of always tell one of my mentors always tell me, sometimes you got to just dumb it down, where McDonald's, they do these really off that emotional connection of a product, right? If you're watching a commercial spot, your star player hits that big shot to end the half, and then that commercial spot, you hear, dun, 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 I'm loving it. Simple as that. That's what McDonald's wants for you to get in that moment. Wow, I'm loving the game. I'm loving the energy. I'm loving this burger. Hey, maybe I might get one after the game. Or if that product's being served in the ballpark, hey, when I find some time, it's cutting through this clutter. And I think that's the beauty of like sports marketing and really the sports sales in any aspect of the revenue business. That's also what somebody wants. They want somewhere to get away, or they want to find a way to interact. And then my goal is now, hey, it's a price to that, right? At one point, it's a price to get in the building. Now it's a price point to get to our core fans, right? To get that target demo, like right here in South Florida, 73% Hispanic Latino, right? So baseball is probably that biggest key in making that connection. Yes, soccer, MLS, Messi's doing nice, but baseball, you got 81 opportunities to do that. And I think that's the thing with social media, telemarketing, digital marketing. It's like, okay, yeah, a lot of people want to get your emails. A lot of people want to get your IG, get your impression, get your engagement. But what's going to make that differentiate yourself, right? It's connecting with a local sports team where it's like, hey, if you're a big fan of the Heat, you're a big fan of Marlins, if you see that brand, that partner associated with it, it'll kind of help them rise their positioning in your mind. Because like, for instance, they New Balance, right? You're already thinking of Nike, Adidas already. But Adidas and New Balance, right, are kind of trending in the right direction where they're trying to get that top spot. So ultimately, people see it as marketing dollars to change their positioning. So even now, Ortani, one of the biggest baseball players, is New Balance. In this past year, you look at Forbes, you look at Wall Street Journal, they can say New Balance is a new luxury brand. Between us friends, conversation with New Balance, like, hey, we want to be a lifestyle brand, and we see Miami as a lifestyle. Hey, we already have baseball as a stronghold, but we want to become more of a lifestyle brand, and Miami does that both at a high level, not including Art Basel, different events we have here throughout the year, and we host those same events here at Lone Depot Park. Even we had one of the top artists in the world filmed a commercial here this past weekend, and they did a concert this Sunday night out here. So it's kind of one of the things where that's the beauty with baseball, with branding, with partnerships. It's a lot of different facets to it, but a lot of people have the same ultimate goals of how can we make those lasting impressions to have lifetime customers, just like we want lifetime fans. So for me, I guess to your point, JP, of how I kind of make that transition, even while I was in the box office, I was trying to get lifetime fans or first-time buyers to make a connection with the team that will live with them forever. Because for me, my mom took me to games at 5, 6 years old, and that what kind of keeps me, at least, hey, I'm doing that for that little Roger. I'm doing for that single parent that wants to come to the game. And then ultimately, like, hey, do I want to get that ice cream? No, I don't. But Mom, I got to get my Dippin' Dots. Even Dippin' Dots is one of my clients. And it's like, yeah, because I remember I wanted Dippin' Dots at one point. And now I get an opportunity to keep that, do my part to keep that legacy going within the game.
What was it like for you to move from one market to the other? Because I know you went from Washington then to New Orleans, and then New Orleans now obviously in the Florida and Miami. What's that like when you gotta relocate to a new market and kind of build a new sort of foundation of customers and relationships?
It takes time. I mean, it's one of the things you shouldn't rush it, but also if you are making this trade, do a little research on the front end and kind of learn more. Of course, we do is interviews. You want to say, hey, how you hit the ground running, what's your goals, what's your 30, 60, 90 plan in the new role. So you kind of do those type of, recon a little bit on what that would look like. But once you first initially get to the market, I got to learn the fan. I got to learn the fan base. I got to know what's the pulse of Miami, right? So that's probably just a 36-day recon on your own of, like, when I started here, it was kind of in season in May, June 1st technically was my second day here. But kind of was able to be in the middle of the season, took my time to understand what a Marlins game day experience is, right? Like you can't sell something you don't know. So I think for me, that's always a big transition. Like when I came from New Orleans, that's when I first got out inside sales. It was my first full-time job. So it was like, I was there for 7 years. So for me, it was kind of more like by the time I got a corporate partnership after my year 5 doing ticket sales, and I did 2 years of corporate partnerships with New Orleans, it was like, okay, I knew what the fan was. I knew our target demo. I knew our brand messaging between both teams, Saints and Pelicans. So it was a little more of a, hey, I know this market like the back of my hand. I understand the partners that probably want to work with us, the message they want to get across, have that affinity. So it was a little easier here. But here in Miami, it's kind of interesting. I say that's learning a new demo is probably the biggest thing for me. Because, hey, I don't speak, Espanol. So it's sometimes you're working on concourse or you see different brands that might be opportunities. It's like, well, I got to find a different way to make those connections than, hey, New Orleans, hey, let's get some gumbo and let's go to Bourbon Street. And, hey, you could probably be easy to make that, personal connection. So I'd say that's probably been my biggest thing here is giving time with that and learning what that Miami fan is and understand that demo a little bit more. But ultimately, right, everybody want to be a global marketer and be international, but you can't do that if you stay in the same markets. So when I made that transition here is like, hey, international marketing is here to stay. I mean, I took that course in college. And of course, at that point, you're not thinking about it as a big deal. But ultimately, if you want to become, Amazon or Apple, they're not just making it for the US, right? So my goal is help my skill set where, hey, you kind of can market to anybody. So that was kind of a challenge I did to myself, JP, to come here. And if you talk about DMAs, as you get into the sports marketing too, New Orleans is 50. Miami is give and take top 15 year over year. So also you make that transition of making big campaigns, bigger relationships, you eventually got to take that leap into a bigger market. Like it's not wrong, kind of being dominant in your home, just like you go to college, right? Hey, you could stay at your hometown and went to school locally, but eventually you got to go that bigger far, see what I'm built out of, right? So I kind of made that challenge myself come here to Miami for that too.
That's great. That's great. All right. So I do want to, take advantage of the time we have and I want it to be as interactive as possible. So I do want to open it up, the questions to some of the students and just hear what they're interested in learning from you, Roger. So who wants to start up a question for our guest? Yeah. What you got, Gavin?
I just have a question for you, Roger. So, working for the Marlins and dealing with partnerships and considering that the team has maybe not performed up to expectations in the past few years, what have been some struggles that you found?
I wouldn't say struggles per se. It's just kind of highlight the good, right? Right now, like it's certain things you don't want to go down because, of course, you can say attendance or things of that nature or maybe team success. But even when I started, hey, we went to the playoffs for the first time in 20 years. I don't know if I was a missing ingredient to that, but also is just realizing what's the strong points. Because even when I was looking here, I was like, hey, they got 2 World Series rings. I know in New Orleans, they won it in 09. You would think they won the Super Bowl yesterday, right? So I always say it's one of the things, it's still a champion brand. Once a champion, forever a champion. So it's highlighting the strong points, things we're doing right in the market, the great rebrand. We was technically one of the first jersey patch partners in the MLB with ADT, Lone Depot Park. So it's understanding the lane you're doing and saying, hey, this is what we're doing for our partners in the community. This is kind of things we've seen growth over the last 5 years. This increase in fans and viewership year over year, even if you go pre-pandemic numbers, which I think in our world is probably like the coolest thing to say, like even, not going off of 20, because everybody say 2021, you had increases. No, we're going off even before pre-pandemic, we're getting epic highs in viewership and engagement. So I say that, Gabe, it's kind of, hey, every organization or market has its shortcomings per se when it comes down to how it's perceived in the market. But also, like I told y'all, is everybody's first time coming, right? So the goal is really treat each season like a life of its own. Because, hey, we on a new tune. Hey, we can talk about what did happen in 2015 or 18 or 22. But that's the beauty of sports. It's kind of keep that next year and say, hey, this is what we're doing right. And this is what we aspire to get to. Hey, we'd like to do that with you. So I think that's kind of how we normally pivot. Because even New Orleans, right? Like AD trade, Drew Brees, the no call, like I experienced a lot of things in even Zion. Hey, that's part of the reason why I'm here too. I got tired of Zion a little bit. He wasn't helping me out. But it's just understand, like, it's always gonna be shortcomings in this business, but understanding I'm an optimistic person. I'm a glass half full type of guy. So I think in sports, you gotta be optimistic about it, because it's always a way to spin it. Because you can get those objections and somebody say, I can't do it today. Then it's like, you know what? I didn't think about that ankle. Gavin, you might be right. I didn't see it that way. And the goal is not to say we're magicians, but be like doctors, right? People are ailing, people are bleeding, people are hurting. We want sports, what we're selling, what we're providing, to kind of be that medicine for them. Because ultimately, they picked up the phone, and once you get about 5-10 minutes in, okay, they're talking for a reason. Let's figure out why we're talking. And I think that's the goal I had, at least here with the Marlins. It's like, they're doing things right. I see the growth opportunities, but then from there, it's like, you know what? Somebody has to take the challenge. And I think that those are the ones that get great in this business. It's easy to sell the Warriors. It's easy to sell the Lakers. Like, those big brands, they're not going to value sellers like that, because they're going to feel like, oh, you're just taking orders. You know what I mean? Like, the interest and the inquiries are at a high level. So, Gavin, I just need you to pencil this in, pencil that in, and copy and paste. But ultimately, to get that, let's say, that bigger role, that smaller market, you don't want that to be your shocking point. Like, wow, I got a lot of things I need to work on. You know what I mean? I got a lot of things that I saw it through one angle. And I think that's my goal, at least working different markets, different cities, different properties. It's like, okay, I've seen this before. Okay, let me go back here. Like, treat it like a textbook or a book. Like, oh, let me go to chapter 5. Oh, I remember I had this conversation January of 2018. It's kind of reminded me of this similar prospect back then. So that's the goal. It's kind of like, how can I get those reps higher? And I think I know I kind of went all over the place there, Gavin, but ultimately, don't let the team or the past deter you for what you could do with them with the opportunity.
Like that. Thank you very much.
Hey, no problem.
Who else got a question? Anybody?
I got a question.
Yeah, JP, go ahead.
So being in baseball and in partnerships, what does like the season play out like look for you like is the off season your busy time because you're getting like these partnerships ready, and then during the season you're kind of watching them play out? Like, how does the season unfold for you?
Well, the beauty about baseball, JP, is always, like you say, it's always time to be selling. I think with baseball is even more true because the season, hey, pitchers report February 15th. The season, hey, if you're lucky, it's not over to November, right? So realistically, you're kind of in season technically a good amount of time. But I feel like here's like, you got to manage your prospects, business cycles, where they looking over partnerships, where they kind of getting those budgets together. And most of the time that's like Q3, Q4, which we're still in season. So sometimes you got conversations like, all right, Raj, it's April. I know we missed opening day, but hey, we have this summer campaign. Because that's the thing too, is like, you got different products. Some people sell certain products in the summer months that they're not selling in the fall and winter. So sometimes it kind of aligns with their marketing campaign. So at that point, hey, yeah, we play the Dodgers. Oh yeah, y'all play the Dodgers in August. Yeah, we're talking in May, but hey, still some opportunities we can maximize in this season. But ultimately, my goal is, JP, is to get money, not even on 24. I'm trying to set up in multi-year parts of 3, 5, 7, 10-year deals, where that's really what separates most of these bigger market teams versus smaller ones, because they're getting those bigger commitments. So they can dedicate those budgets to get those higher free agents because they know what's money. Let's think about partnerships. Ticket sales is not me that do legal contracts, right, or long-term commitments. But with partnership dollars, that really stays in-house because not really much hard cost. That digital signage doesn't cost much. That's free. A lot of sponsorship dollars really stays with organization more than technically the ticket revenue. Because ticket revenue, you got to split that amongst the leagues, other ownerships, but sponsorship revenue, that's why once you can show you can sell tickets, hospitality, it's like, okay, but sponsorship, they trust you more than anything because that helps the bottom line. That's really the net profit for more organizations. That and merchandise. Merchandise sales, TV contracts, and then sponsorships. So to your point, JP, it really doesn't stop because it's always like, I'm not worried about it. I'm trying to get ready for 26, 27, maybe 30. Like, because I remember in New Orleans, we did what, a 30-year naming rights deal? So even my senior director at that time, once he closed that deal, even then, when he hired me to do the job, I'm like, oh, Adam, you won't be here much longer. You know, once you do those type of deals, somebody else is going to be like, hey, I want you to do that for us. So I think that's the way you got to go about it, JP. I think some sellers might get content saying like, oh, the season's over. Let me take a month or two, take my foot off the gas. But ideally, those that really realize, hey, my pipeline's never dry because I'm kind of turning, I'm setting myself up for success, not really just for next month, but for next year or 2-3 years after that. So yeah, it doesn't stop, JP. It doesn't stop.
It's a good, yeah, it was a good question. I'm glad you asked it.
Great
So
question.
I guess as a follow-up question, what types of assets now are you seeing that companies want to use to market their products and services? So, you know, what are they doing? What are they doing to activate at your games, or what, you know, what are you developing? What are you seeing in terms of trends in that sort of area?
I mean, we're seeing a lot more. That's the thing about view about baseball, the amount of TV visibility, right, is pretty much probably more prominent. I mean, NBA is pretty up there. It's probably being close, but that home plate signage is always going to be key to baseball. Outfield wall signage. Also, in-game features are really still big, but also activations on promenades in our common areas. Outdoor activations are still pretty big because people just want to get that pure interaction with the fan and still kind of collect accurate data. And sometimes with activations, kind of giving away items, things of that nature, today offers still go a long way. And honestly, social media. Social media is probably number one because they want to reach, honestly, your generation at a high clip because you're really the future buyer of America. So social media, digital marketing is probably number one. We're seeing a lot more growth even here with the Marlins. I know a couple of years ago, there's like, we had a meeting with BAM, our league, that kind of helps, you know, control our digital rights or things and whatnot in our IP. And they had a conversation, hey, your growth in the last 3 years is obviously number one growth in the MLB, right? So I can at least see that, JP. Digital marketing, social media is prime, but still getting to those traditional forms still matter a long way, just with that brand awareness. So it's kind of still trading true to the game what it is, but now just let's reach people where they at is even more initiative than before, and we're in a good spot there.
Okay. What other questions you guys have?
I have a question. Baseball, I've been told it's one of the hardest sports in the industry because there's so many games. Do you see that that's true, especially compared to the NBA where there's half the amount of games, or even football where there's 17 games?
Well, to your point, Colin, hey, I've done all volume of games, but I can tell you on the partnership side, it's kind of refreshing because you have more opportunities to get creative and promise more value, right? Because you can say 17 games, but technically you might, you know, the way now the new schedule, you might get 10 home games, including preseason. So it's so much more pressure on those activation, on those placements, executing a partnership. Like, hey, we only got 10 games to get this right. If we lose an asset or something happens, that amount of forgiveness for a partner is a little less because the action price is a lot higher in NFL, but you have to be very efficient to say, can we execute this partnership at a high level? And like sometimes, like, yeah, we get it done, but that's the thing, you got no wiggle room, things happen. Now, NBA is special. I kind of like say, even when I got into it, it's the best of both worlds, right? It's attacking the right market, you know, right demo, innovative generation, cool. But with baseball, I still feel like it's a holistic approach of what America truly is, right? Because everybody sees themselves a little bit more. So I think over time, especially with them playing in the pitch clock, hey, games are less. Right now I'm here for Caribbean Series. There's no pitch clock. I'm like, yeah, we had a game that's probably ended 30 minutes ago and started at 10:30. Yeah, I can see that was a problem. But baseball, understand that's a solution to, like you said, okay, there's a lot of games. The games are very long. They worked on that. And now it's like you're talking to a brand partner. Yeah, you go to the Heat, same, you know, let's say 17, 20,000 people, you get that for 40. Hey, you could do this for 81 games in a longer cycle, right? You're almost covering 3/4 of a business cycle to get your campaign out here. So now I think with baseball, those that be excuse made for NFL, which, hey, everybody understand the brand visibility, but that's the thing on NFL, you see no sponsorships on the field. So if you're not a part of that fan that's attending the game, that TV visibility aspect of a partnership is truly not there, right? Then you got NBA where it's like, okay, I'm not watching basketball in the fall. I'm going to high school games. I'm watching college football. I'm watching NFL. Hey, I might watch NBA in April, right? So that fan that's truly engaged that you're trying to reach, it's a little disconnect depending on who you're trying to reach. But baseball, either you come on your group trip, you coming on your company outing, you got your kids that want to go, or you got that special. At least I guarantee you, the city that has a baseball team, year over year, you're at least probably coming twice, even on an accident. So if you're a diehard baseball fan, it's like a niche. Like hockey and baseball is like, it's not for everybody, but those that love it, they love it. So I say, Kyle, that's how I differentiate baseball. It's more, sometimes you got flood data and flush customers. With baseball, it's like, nah, it's down to a T for who it is. And we try to guarantee at least the average fan that's a Marlins fan come at least 3 or 5 times a year. Baseball and basketball is hard to guarantee that because football, the way the cost is, maybe 1 time a year, and basketball, probably twice. But you get more value to meet that ideal client you want to reach. So that's how I kind of overcome, let's say, the volume of baseball, the amount of games, because it's still better quality. I think it's good quality over quantity because it's still both. It's quality on both ends, depending on how you look at it.
Roger, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of working in sales, and then on the flip side, what's the most challenging aspect of working in sales?
I mean, you know how everybody says no cap to it, but it's like it is what you put into it. But then sometimes that can't be the stressful part, but also I think that's the rewarding part. Today's a new day. Whatever didn't happen yesterday, what you could have did better, it's a new prospect or a new opportunity that's right on the other side. In some aspects of business, right, if you're on some side of business where it's not really revenue or sales driven, you could be like, I'm in the wrong opportunity. I don't know how I can make this better. But with sales, at the end of the day, like I was telling Gavin earlier, it's about what you put in the perspective, in the spin you put on it. So I think that's the beauty, I feel like, with sales. Yes, it could be hard, it could be a little stressful because sometimes you don't know when that next meal will come, especially on partnerships. It's not like somebody's paying, monthly on their season tickets. It's coming in invoices. So I could close a deal today. I might not see none from 6, 8. It's kind of like, in college, like refund checks. So it's not about like, oh, I'm going to get paid this money tomorrow. It's like, nah, it'll come. But that's why it's like, it got to be a passion point and understand, like, I'm not doing this for the dollar amount for your prospect. I understand, hey, this is the goals, these are the decks for your company. I really think this is the best campaign to get the vision you want to get across to the market. And then from there, a year from now, right, I'm doing this partnership now. Or let's say I was doing this partnership in August, right? August of 23. I might not see it come to life in March, right? So it's the joy of saying like, hey, and then you start the season, you see about 5, 6 different partnerships that you help create. It's like, wow, this is cool. And I think that's the transition. I feel like with ticket sales, like you got a lot of clients and people coming to you, but it's kind of cool just to see your work just live amongst it. And you see people interact with the product. Like even now, I got a frozen lemonade partner. Everybody, oh man, I love it so much. I'm so glad. It's like, oh, I help enhance the fan experience. And ultimately, on both sides of it, it's about enhancing the fan experience. So that ultimately has to be the why. And JB, to your point, that's why I love that is not sales, the good or the bad. It's ultimately like it's a game of service. And then once your service is rewarded, you reap the benefits of the compensation, right? So it's really treating that like the last thing, because anybody, if you tell anybody a number on the front end, they're like, no, I can't do it. But you see the value, you see what it brings to you, the joyness that comes from it. And then you put the number at the end, normally that person's like, oh, that's not that bad, right? And that's the key. Once you roll everything out, you talk things through, once you get down to the number, they realize it's worth it. That the number is obsolete. It doesn't really matter on my decision of purchasing this product or doing this experience with you, because you gave me all the bullet points to say I could justify it. Because ultimately, people are willing to spend, right? I always say people buy on Fridays, right? So if you talk to somebody on a Friday and it's payday, it's a high chance that if y'all been talking for a couple weeks, y'all went down the path, you took them down to see the seats, and you have them at that appointment at the ballpark looking at the field test driving seats, I like to say, hey, Raj, I got paid today. Let's set this up, put it on a payment plan, and hey, I look forward to the season. So I think it's kind of like treating that, JP, I guess if I want to bring the sports sales aspect, treat the sale to end, because at that point, they gonna feel like they owe you their business at the end.
All right. Well, I feel like Roger, I feel like we could go on for a long time, and that's always a sign of a good session. And so I do appreciate your time, and I think you gave the students a lot of insight and a lot of things to think about as they sort of go through this journey of hopefully getting into the world of sport. If a student wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
LinkedIn,
LinkedIn.
Roger Perryman, or say you gotta make yourself stand out. I put my middle initial in it, so it's Roger and Perryman. So there's Roger and Perryman, and I'll probably be the first. I'll be the first one you see.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Again, I do appreciate it. Good luck with the start of the season, and hopefully we'll stay connected here.
Yeah, we're still connected. JP, hey, everybody, hey, send me a quest. And like I said, if y'all have any questions, just send me a connection, send me a message, and hey, I love to help out, because that's how I met JP. Actually, I had a friend I used to work with for the Saints and Pelicans, and he said, hey, I got my cousin, my nephew, that, hey, he just need to talk to you about your project. And really, that's how I ended up here. So I'm always willing to kind of help out or talk through some things, or you're in the process of looking for jobs. Because like I said, I was there, and I understand how hard it is. It's really sometimes about some of that one person to vouch for you in a certain situation. It's like, there you go, and connecting the dots. So I'm here to do that any way I can for everybody here today.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, JP.
See you guys.